Now we will consider the structure of the nervous system of human. The nervous system of human is divided into two sections. First one is the central nervous system, which include brain and spinal cord. And second, peripheral nervous system, which composed is a nerve ending and the nerve nodes. The brain has a spherical shape. The brain average proportion of adult human has length 170 to 180 millimeter. Diameter is 140 millimeter. Height is equal to 125 to 135 millimeter. The brain mass in average composed in men 1,370 to 1,380 gram. For women 1,250 to 1,270 gram. Volume of brain is within the limits of 1,250 to 1,600 cubic centimeters. Each brain hemisphere divided into four large lobes: the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, occipital lobe, and temporal lobe. Each hemisphere divided by furrow on the lobe. The lateral lobe, it is the deepest furrow, which called Sylvian furrow. The central furrow, called Roland's furrow, and third one is parietal occipital furrow. The brain covered by three shells: the soft shell, hard shell, and the arachnoid shell. Brain soft hyoid shell adjoins to the brain. It consists of loose connective tissue. In the connective tissue, there are numerous blood vessels which feed the brain. Brain arachnoid shell, it is a thin, translucent shell. Don't has vessels. There is a subarachnoid cavity between the soft shell and the arachnoid shell. It is full of spinal fluid. Brain hard shell, it is a periosteum of skull. Brain hard shell built of dense connective tissue. It inside covered with flat wet cells. Brain hard shell tightly grow together with skull bone. Between hard shell and arachnoid shell, there is subdural space, which full of serous fluid. In this shell, observe highest concentration of pain receptors, while pain receptors absent in the brain. The brain consists of 5 main sections: the end brain, interbrain, midbrain, hindbrain, and oblongata. Oblongata consists of gray matter, cores of cranial brain nerves, and white matter, bunches of myelinated nerve fibers. Moreover, there is reticular formation with the neurons which sends impulses to the spinal cord. The main function of oblongata: protective function, cough, winking, leakage of tear, vomiting; trophic function, suction, swallowing, leakage of digestive gland juice; cardiovascular function, regulation of heart activity and blood vessels; breath functions, control the amount of information which convey information transfer to the spinal cord; identification of frequency, intensity, and sound source; and conductive function. The second section is midbrain. There are brain roof and stem in midbrain. The roof surface is divided by two grooves. Grooves forms 4 tubercles. 2 upper tubercles contains the subcortical center of eyesight, and 2 lower tubercles contain subcortical centers of hearing. Brainstem formed by nerve fibers. Between nerve fibers has neuron accumulations. It is midbrain nuclei. The main function of midbrain: regulation of skeletal muscle tone, participate of body balance preservation and orientational reflexes to light and sound, implements a start reflex, and conductive function. The third section is cerebellum. The cerebellum consists of 2 large cerebellar hemispheres and brain worms which connect the hemispheres with each other. Cerebellum weight is 120 to 150 grams. Each hemisphere consists of gray matter and white matter. The gray matter covers white matter and forms cerebellar cortex. Gray matter of cerebellum branch out in the white matter. It called cerebellum life tree. The cortex of cerebellum hemispheres consists of 2 layers of nerve cells: outer molecular layer and granular layer. The cortex thickness is 1 and 2.5 millimeters. Nerve core lie in the white matter. The cerebellum connects with the brain stem. The main function of cerebellum: coordination and regulation of muscle tone. Large cerebral hemispheres. It includes hemisphere share, cortex, basal ganglia, basal small brain, lateral ventricles. Cerebral hemisphere separated by longitudinal slits. There are callosum in the longitudinal slit. The callosum connect brain vertebral hemisphere with each other. There are next surface of each hemispheres: convex surface, lower surface, and middle surface, which connected hemisphere with each other. In each hemisphere there are protruding parts: the frontal pole, occipital pole, and the temporal pole. Cortex consists of gray matter. Its thickness is equal 1.3 to 4.5 millimeter. There are 15 billion cells in the cortex. Yardage of cortex is approximately 220,000 square millimeters. Under the cortex, there is white matter with a nuclei. The main function of forebrain coordinates activities of eyesight, hearing, speech, spatial analysis, memory, spatial orientation, somatic sensitivity, logical intellections. The spinal cord. Spinal cord consists of spinal cavity. Spinal cord thickness is equal to 1 centimeter. Weight is equal to 30 grams. Spinal cord length is for male 45 centimeters, for women 41 and 42 centimeters. The spinal cord consists of, it is a long cylindrical tube. The upper part of spinal cord enters oblongata. The lower part of spinal cord ends of conical, sharpening at the second lumbar vertebra. From the cortical sharpening of downward departs terminal thread, which consists of spinal cord shelf. The ends of terminal thread attached to the second coccygeal vertebra. The spinal cord has two thickenings. The cervical thickening corresponds to the upper limbs roots, and the lumbar thickening corresponds to the lower limbs roots. The spinal cord divides on two symmetrical parts by means of two grooves. Front groove located between the front horn, and the rear groove located between the rear horn. The spinal cord consists of 31 segments, 8 cervical segments, 12 thoracic segments, 5 lumbar segments, 5 cranial segments, and 1 coccygeal segment. Each segment corresponds to the spinal of vertebra. From each spinal cord segments depart a pair of root, front root and the rear root. Front root consists of motor efferent neuron, and the rear root consists of sensory afferent neurons. Near the spinal cord, motor root adjoined to the sensitive root and its together form the trunk spinal cerebral nerve. Near the junction place of both root, rear root forms a thickening, which called spinal cerebral node ganglion. There are not synapses because there lie only cell neuron of afferent neurons. Spinal cord is shorter than the spinal canal. That's why exit place of nerve root doesn't correspond with intervertebral aperture level. Spinal cord is covered by means of 3 shells. The outer shell is a hard shell. It has sac-shaped. It does not join tightly to the wall of the spinal canal. The medium shell is arachnoid shell. It is a thin, transparent, avascular sheet. Between hard shell and arachnoid shell, there are subdural space. Internal shell, it is soft shell, which covered by endothelium and contains blood vessels. Between the arachnoid and soft shell, there is a subarachnoid space. Internal structure of the spinal cord. The spinal cord forms by two substances, the gray matter and white matter. Gray matter contains nerve cells. The white matter contains myelinated nerve fibers. Gray matter is into the spinal cord are surrounded on all sides by white matter. In the middle of gray matter, there is a narrow central channel with contain a spinal cerebral fluid. Gray matter transverse section has the butterfly shaped. Gray matter formed by neurons body which locate in the spinal cord. It performs reflective function. The gray matter forms the horns, front horns, formed by motor neuron. It conveys information to the muscle of limbs and torso. Rear horns are formed by interneurons, which connected sensory and motor neurons. It conveys information to other parts of brain. The medial horns, there are only thoracic part of spinal cord. It conveys information to the vegetative organs. The white matter is formed by interneuron axons, which are located in the brain. Its myelin fibers are collected into sheaths. There are short and long types of fibers. Short associative fibers are which connected neurons of different segments. Along the centripetal fibers are which go to the brain. It's named sensory or afferent fibers. Long centrifugal fibers which come in from the brain to the spinal cord. It's named motor or efferent fibers. The spinal cord is connected with the brain. The nerve fibers are grouped into sheath, and the sheath form ropes. There are three types of ropes. The first one is a rear ropes, second one is a lateral ropes, third one is front ropes. The rear ropes contain only ascending way. It brings information about the state of locomotor apparatus, skin and tactical organs to the cortex. The lateral ropes is presented by two ways. The first one is ascending way, which convey information to the hindbrain, midbrain, and interbrain. The second one is descending way, which convey information from the cortex, midbrain, and hindbrain. Front cord contain only descending way, which convey information from the brain, cortex, and the midbrain.